Hey, this is Steve in Dallas, Texas. It's Saturday morning, my friend, and you are listening to Light Talk.
Good morning. This is Stan in Gainesville, Florida.
And this is David coming to you from beautiful Long Beach, California. And if you don't already know, you are listening to Light Talk, and we are the Lumen Brothers. And welcome everyone to episode 164. And today, we have a special treat for you. We have one of the two co-interns of this year's Gilbert Hemsley Lighting Internship. Rachael Blackwell is with us today. Rachael, this is so great to have you on today.
Thank you.
Yeah, and Steve actually has Rachel's bio. So Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about Rachael?
Well, this is Rachael in Blackwell, and she is a native of Hampton, Virginia. She received her Bachelor of Arts in Theater Arts with an emphasis on technical theater from Alabama State University in Montgomery, Alabama, in May of 2016. And last week, she received her MFA in Lighting Design and Technology from College Conservatory of Music, University of Cincinnati.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
She currently has design experience in lighting for drama, opera, and dance. Rachael has assisted many designers and worked with the Cincinnati Ballet, Yale Repertory Theater, the Alley Theater, Alabama Shakespeare Festival, and the Pacific Conservatory for the Performing Arts. Her designs have been seen at Alabama State University, CCM, Montgomery Ballet, American Theater, and Thomas Nelson Performing Arts in Hampton, Virginia. And as David says, most recently she was awarded the Gilbert Hemsley Lighting Internship. So Rachael, let's just jump right in there. What does it mean to receive the Gilbert Hemsley Lighting Internship? Tell us all about it.
Oh man, I'm still in disbelief, honestly. It's an honor, honestly. When I was reading about Gilbert before actually applying, then I thought how fitting that this was created to continue his legacy. I was actually pointed in the direction of the internship by another former student, Brandon Baker. And he said, you know, Gilbert, he was somebody who really believed in mentorship, and he always took his students with him and assist him when he went to go do these huge shows. And there were people who wanted to continue that even after he passed. And so again, looking into it, I'm enamored by him. It's awesome. He studied at Yale for I think his undergrad degree and his MFA. His first degree was in history though, and then he was at the School of Drama. He's also known for assisting the amazing Jean Rosenthal. So that was pretty huge, and his designs have been seen everywhere, including Broadway when the original Porgy and Bess. So I think it's an honor, and those are some pretty big shoes to fill.
Let me ask you, other than bragging rights, what else comes along with the Gilbert Hemsley Lighting Internship?
So what they've created is an opportunity for young artists such as myself coming straight out of postgraduate career, a chance to, I see it as like a middle ground. It's not quite Broadway yet, but it's also not, we're just starting out and we're still trying to find our footing. It's a great middle space to be in for young emerging designers, and there aren't that many companies and opportunities for people who still need a little real world experience but have already done the work in terms of finding design work on their own and everything. So they've paired us up with a mentor. I was supposed to actually assist Paul Miller at the Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera this summer. Unfortunately, their season was canceled, but so I was gonna help him out on their amazing season, and then they have amazing opportunities from Alvin Ailey to New York City Ballet to San Francisco Opera, and so there's some really big names connected to this internship, and they have the means to connect you with somebody who can help you find that next step in your career.
Well, that's what it's all about. I mean, I'm sure Steve and Stan will agree with me that you learn theater by doing theater. And I do consider Gilbert as one of my main mentors, even though I did not technically study under him, because when he hired me as his assistant, and I sort of became his student because I'd never assisted before. And people who've listened to the show know the story, so I won't tell it again. But the reason why he took his students with him was so that they would have those opportunities to learn in the real theater.
Yeah.
And the thing about Gilbert, and I don't know if anyone told you about this, is that he is one of those rare human beings that when he walks into a room, everything is okay. He had something about him that he would glow. He had this fiery sort of reddish brown hair, and it was wild, and these wild curls. And he would walk in, he was like a beacon of happiness, and it was just amazing. So there was very little stress around him. And you're right, he would bring all his students. He would bring his, like I would bring one student, maybe two students to work on a show with me. He would bring like 6 or 7, and they were all referred to as Gilbert's bunnies. So I think, I'm going to talk to Mark Stanley about this, because I have an idea for future winners. We should have little bunny ears we give the future winners of the Gilbert Hemsley internship.
I have one question on this subject that you made me think of. Rachel, what are you most excited about doing in the internship?
Oh man, I was most excited about Pittsburgh's season. They had an amazing season lined up. They were doing a chorus line, and Paul he had acquired the original light plot, and
Oh, that sounds great.
yeah,
That
he
sounds
was
like
gonna,
fun, yeah.
yeah. And the director I had heard was one of the original actors from the original Broadway show. So
Oh, wow.
Well, it's interesting because a lot of our shows have been canceled. 3 of my summer shows were just canceled. And what they are doing, and I don't know if Pittsburgh's going to do this, but in Central City, we've just postponed a season to next year. So maybe they'll do the same. And maybe you can still be a part of that somehow.
That's
Wouldn't
my
that be
hope.
great?
That would be awesome.
Yeah. So a lot of the summer companies are doing that right now because it's probably the easiest thing for them to do, unless they're under contract with other artists that have to be there for next year. You never know. It depends on the company.
Yeah.
But boy, would that be great. And before we continue, we really need to give a shout out to Mark Stanley. As everyone knows, Mark pretty much heads this program, this Gilbert Hemsley Internship, and has done it for many, many years. And he was one of Gilbert's students as well. I actually met him on a show when he was one of Gilbert's bunnies. And his generosity and keeping this alive is just magnificent. A huge service to the community. And what a great guy. So thanks, Mark. So now you are leaving the safety and routine of college to enter the scary profession. And you're entering in the middle of the pandemic, which is a lot of unknowns, as you know. What are your thoughts about all this, about this transition?
It's some growing pains for more reason than one. But I have honestly taken this time to, yes, even though I've graduated, I'm still learning. I'm taking advantage of all of the online classes and workshops and master classes that people are offering in other areas that maybe I didn't get to touch on so much in grad school, like more advanced Photoshop techniques and render works and things like that. And so that's kind of been my foreseeable future next step, to just continue learning. But once the world finds its footing, I'm hoping to do some traveling. I would love to get on a tour or two and see what that life is like while I'm still young.
Well, I guess that's the time to do it, right, Steve? Because Steve did a lot of touring when he was young, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yes, what you're going to see is a lot of arenas, and they all look the same.
A lot of late nights.
I was gonna say it's something different, and I love new exciting things. So I'm all about it.
Are you into rock and roll?
All genres of music, honestly. I can't even just say rock and roll, but the short answer is yes. When it comes to lighting, I think rock and roll can be extremely fun.
Who's your favorite band or artist?
Oh, Are you limiting me to rock and roll or?
No,
Okay.
just go for it.
My favorite artist of all time is Erykah Badu. You guys know her?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Okay, so Rachel,
Yeah.
you have been, self-quarantined for about 45 days now. You have gone to the end of the internet and back again, and I bet you've done the same thing on television. So what have you been watching on TV these days?
Absolutely. Even in the midst, even when there isn't a pandemic, I'm binging something somewhere. So yeah, I'm trying to keep up. I actually just started, what's it called? Little Fires Everywhere with my mother the other day. With Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington, and that show was really interesting. I'm not completely invested yet. I'm about 2 episodes in, but we'll see how it goes. I've been hearing a lot of great reviews. But
if you want something your mother's going to enjoy, let me recommend Demon Slayer. Kimetsu no Yabi, an anime right out of Japan. I'm up to episode 27 right now, and there's at least 3 demons killed in every episode, so I know she could wrap her head around that.
Wow. I don't know if you're being funny or not, but my mother would actually probably love something like that.
Is she an anime buff?
Not anime, but she loves like the supernatural and sci-fi type shows, so she would be probably all over that. Anything Marvel, honestly. Some Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, even DC. Gotham is pretty good, and I like a lot of dramatic and violent, for lack of a better term.
Oh my God!
Shows.
We've got a violent woman here.
So I mean, they have the best storylines, if we're being honest. So it's always a revenge thing, But they've also got some great lighting. Even all these series, I feel like anything that can sustain 3 or 4 seasons, just continually, the production value, it just goes up from year to year because the makeup is getting better, the costume is getting better, the equipment is always changing. So one of my favorite shows that I watched a few times now, and waiting on the last season to come on, The Walking Dead. They have some...
Oh, you've lost all credibility now. The Walking Dead.
Oh, no.
So, Rachel, tell me, what is it about the medium of television that really allows you to see the lighting or appreciate the lighting as much as you're talking about?
That's an interesting question because honestly, I think that the short answer would just be theater has ruined me. Because sometimes, I'm actively looking at things and I notice something, and sometimes I am fully immersed in the story and I'm just like, wow, this is a really beautiful moment. Like the juxtaposition of light and dark or space across the screen and all of these different things. So I couldn't tell you what it is about it that draws me to it, but yeah, sometimes it's planned and some just jump out at me.
The reason why I'm asking you this, there are several reasons, but a big reason right now is that some people feel it may be a while until live entertainment productions get going again. And some people actually think that this is going to move a lot of people into a different style of media, like TV, film, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Would you ever be interested in working in those media?
Absolutely. I am the type of person who never wants to be put in any kind of box. So although I have, I was trained and I studied and worked with drama, dance, and opera, I am absolutely open to any and all avenue of light, including I recently been checking out the video game market. They actually spend a lot of money on the lighting for their games. So right. I've been looking at the different drafting and rendering programs that they use because it's completely different from, Vectorworks and CAD and RenderWorks. They have whole other programs. So there's a lot to learn out there as it pertains to different avenues of light, and I'm open to them all.
Can you rattle off a couple of those programs that you're trying to become familiar with?
Yeah, Unreal 3 and 4, Unity, Frostbite, Those are some of the lighting engines, but then they also have like industry standard rendering programs like Renderman, V-Ray, Mitsuba. So there's a ton of them. Those are just some of the bigger ones that I've come across just in reading. But yeah, it's a whole nother world out there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people are going to be learning it very soon because it's a great way to keep your chops up. And also, it's spread yourself out, to different industries, especially someone your age, coming right from graduate school. You've experienced opera, you've experienced theater, musicals. Hey, why not? Why not start doing some other things? I know, Stan, you guys are doing or talking about doing next semester a lot of virtual reality things, right?
Well, I'm not supposed to use that word because somebody... Actually, let me ask Rachel about this. So I'm curious, when you hear the word virtual reality... do you think that that's an environment where one person is having an experience in a virtual space? Because I don't. I think you could have performers in a virtual space, an audience in a virtual space altogether. But I was slapped on the hand the other day that, oh no, virtual reality is like you and a thing, not like a community experience. So I'm curious, and we are looking at developing. Those tools already exist, and we're looking at putting them to use in our program. But how do you see it?
Yeah, no, virtual reality can definitely be a party. It does not have to be.
Okay, I'm going to coach you on that, Rachel.
Wait a second. That's going to be the name of this episode. Virtual reality can be a party.
No, yeah, seriously. I mean, do you guys watch? Okay, I have to go back to TV for a second. But have you guys watched Black Mirror? Any of those episodes?
I have, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the newest season, they have this episode where there's a device that you connect to your temple, and you can play essentially like a fighter game like Tekken or something with your friend, and they're in their house with their controller, but you guys are transported to this virtual world where you feel the punches and you're in that environment. So yeah, why not?
Well, thank you, Rachel, for saying that, because we're having a meeting, in fact, with our faculty coming up, and our design area is proposing that as part of a research endeavor to put these tools to use in that way, where we would provide cameras and light kits and screens to actors in various locations and teleport them in, so to speak, into that virtual space, and then set audience members could either watch it on a flat screen, or if they have a headset, they can pop on the VR headset and be in that space all together. And we know that people do that. My grandchildren do exactly what you described. That helps when you have young kids. Like, I've got kids who are under 10, and they love computers, and that's what they do. They play with their friends around the world, all in the same space. So I think, Zoom and webinars is not what we're talking about. We're talking about something much deeper that would take a lot of time to ramp up. So I'm glad to hear you say that you view it the way you do. You view it the way I do it. So thank you.
Yeah, and if you need any beta testers for that, then, hit me up.
Exactly. That's exactly what we are at a research university, and that is exactly what we should be doing.
Yeah.
Getting back to television, Rachel, you're actually very fortunate to grow up in this age. They're calling it the second golden age of television, which sort of started way back in, 1997 or 6 or 8 with The Sopranos. And back then, they started to really use lighting in a very expressionistic way.
Yeah.
Then Breaking Bad. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Yes.
Breaking Bad. Yes, exactly. Breaking Bad is fantastic when it comes to the cinematography and art direction of that. And again, moving more toward expressionistic naturalism. And of course, all of our favorite Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Incredible lighting in that.
Yes. Except for that one episode.
Which episode are you talking about? The one with the cups in it? The
No,
coffee cups?
Oh, yeah, that was pretty bad. That was pretty bad.
That was bad.
It was the last season, though, but the actual battle, it was so dark. And you remember, the guy, he got so much flack for it, and it's like, I see both sides.
I don't know if you heard our show after that, but I went on for a half an hour about that. That was so pathetic. Even with a great television, it was like horrible.
Yeah,
it was really a
pretty
problem.
dim.
But anyway, that show, though, had amazing lighting in it.
Yeah.
Well, I've got the next question, and Rachel, this is a little bit on the personal side, but not too deep. But we're curious: do you come from a family with an arts background? Were you surrounded by creatives, or were your family's engineers and bankers, or what's your background in terms of the arts?
All of the above.
Okay.
My family, they either go the mechanical engineering route or it's creative all the way. I have a cousin who just got her doctorate in neuroscience.
Wow.
But
cool.
By the same token, her brother is a solo artist who plays the guitar. And I come from the same kind of background. My mom, she sings. My sister, she sings and plays several instruments. She's also a solo artist. Talitha Gabrielle, she's on Instagram and Apple Music and everything else. But my whole family, they can sing, they can paint, they play instruments.
Wow.
I grew up in band. I played the alto sax and the trombone. So it's like, I've been fully immersed in arts and entertainment from a very young age.
Nice.
And I think that definitely contributed to where I am today. Because I knew, even going into undergrad, I knew I wanted to do something in the arts, but I didn't know where or what. And at one point I was on a technical direction track. Then I bounced over to, I was like, well, I'm going to do film. I want to be a director. I want to be a cinematographer. And then I went to the first show of my undergrads. They were doing that year. It was called Crowns. And it was about women in their hats, like church ladies, and the significance of their hats and their crowns.
Interesting.
And it was a really great show, and the students were amazing, the acting, the costumes, everything. And the next day I walked into admissions and I declared myself a theater major.
Great story. Great story.
You talked about the mechanical engineering background in your family as well as the arts. Do you find that, as a follow-up to that, do you find that the lighting design gives you both the creative and the technical director part of you? Do you feel like that both of those things are things you excel in?
No.
Okay.
I'm more on the artsy side. I
Okay.
love math, but math hates me. So
Not so much the math, but tinkering. I like to tinker, but not.
Oh, yeah.
But it's to make something beautiful, not necessarily just to tinker.
Absolutely, yeah. No, my mom thought for the longest I was going to be an engineer because I would take apart the chairs and stuff in the house and then put them back together.
We hope you put them back together.
Yeah.
We're going to eat dinner in 5 minutes, Rachel.
Right, we need the table.
We need these chairs put back together.
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely there. I don't think it's as loud as my artsy side, but I do have some of that mechanical mind working at all times.
How's your alto sax? We could use a little alto sax in our theme song.
You know something the Luminoids need? An alto sax.
Can you riff on that thing?
My embouchure is completely shot. I have to I gotta get my chops back up.
Okay.
All right. Well, listen, you know the song. It's at the top and the bottom of every one of our episodes. Jam along to it, and when you're ready, send us a track. We have some very famous people on that song. You know, Zach Bovery's on that song. He plays bass.
Oh, no, I didn't know that. And it's really catchy. I love it.
Yeah, you say that to all the podcasters.
We love your theme song. Your podcast stinks, but we love your theme song. Hey, I got a question for you, Rachel. We hear that you are a Harry Potter fan.
Absolutely.
Is this true?
Yes, I'm a huge nerd, and it's crazy because I haven't even gone to Potter World yet. Is that what it's called?
Something like that.
Is that a place?
Yeah.
Potter World?
Yeah, that's Disney. They have it.
Yeah, they created a whole world based off of the Wizarding World, and it's at Disney in California, and I haven't gone yet. But yes, love Harry Potter. I grew up reading those books, and over time just started to notice more every time I watched the movies. unfortunately, they never include all the information from the books. So we do miss a lot of the storylines and things like that. But I find it really interesting that a lot of the words, this reminds me of a story. My mom, she's an English professor, and when me and my sister started reading these books, there were some of our more religious family members who weren't on board with, the whole idea of witchcraft and things. And so whenever they would try and say, this witchcraft, all those spells and incantations, my mom was like, no, most of it is actually Latin. And so it was funny to me, and that always stuck with me. So rereading them and finding words like lumos, which is the incantation they use to light up their wand. It's from the Latin word lumen, meaning light. And opposite that, to get rid of that light, they said nox, which is it comes from the Latin word night, for night. So it's interesting to see J.K. Rowling and how deep she really delved into the language of this world. And then from the movies, there's several. Again, some of those more dramatic elements. The fact that Hogwarts is primarily lit, candlelight. So there's a lot of shadow play and a lot of dark, moody scenes that happen late at night. Or over the lake, you see this starry landscape, and then the foreboding forest going on in the background. And Dumbledore, he created this tool. It's called a Deluminator. And what it does.
Do we have that? Do we have one of those?
Every time you listen to our show, you deluminate.
We could be the Dimmer Brothers.
The Deluminators. That's the new band song, the Deluminators.
That's the
I'm sorry,
mascots.
we went off on this weird sort of thing. Right, the mascots.
But he created it, and it's just it's like a pocket. It's the opposite of a flashlight. It takes light out of, they call the non-magical people muggles. So it took out muggle lights. It extinguished them. So if you're standing in the middle of the street in the middle of the night and you click this Deluminator, it sucks up the light bulb on every street lamp, and you can hold it and use it at a later date. You don't have to give that light back right away.
Interesting.
Man, that's better than Vanta Black.
Yeah.
That's better than Luminescent.
Totally. That's fantastic.
Rachel, I've got one last question for you before we let you get away.
Yeah.
Okay, let's be honest. What's the ultimate goal?
Really loaded question there.
You are the first guest of a recent MFA on the Light Talk show, so you're making some history here, just like Gilbert made. You're the first, so just take your time. You're setting
No
the mark.
pressure, right?
No pressure. No pressure.
Right. You are definitely the first guest under 40.
That's for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That is okay. That's good to know. A nice little trivia fact. Really.
Well, I know there's a struggle right now because you've been on Light Talk, so there's not much left to conquer in the world.
She can only go up after this.
But is it Broadway? Is it film? Is it living in Paris? Is it going from regional theater to regional theater?
Lighting an iceberg in Antarctica.
I'm going to take this back a little bit. So Dallas Black came to my undergrad, and they did a show, and I was just completely blown away. I think they brought in their own lighting guy. And from that moment, I realized that I would love to be the resident lighting designer of a touring dance company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I love dance, and I can't dance, and so I think that's why I have so much passion and respect for those who can. But I would love to work with a dance company, and that be my main stilo.
Any particular style or choreographer you have a lot of admiration for?
I love modern dance, and the classical ballets are just absolutely beautiful. Balanchine's pieces, all of them.
Well, you're in the right internship, aren't you?
Yeah.
Who's our two friends? Clifton Taylor, who does a lot of work in dance. You should contact him. He has he's given us an interview, and
Al Crawford.
Al Crawford with Alvin Ailey. There's
Al
two
Ailey.
good places to
yeah.
start right
And
there. Clifton and Al.
3.
There you go.
Yeah, I
Right.
just met Al. Virtually met him. He was on my interview panel
Yeah.
for
Better
Hemsley.
still.
Yeah.
And Jennifer Tipton.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
all great people. Well, listen, Rachel, thank you so much for spending the time with us, and good luck. And I'm
Thank
just going to
you.
speak from all the Lumen Brothers and Sister that if you ever need anything, if you're ever going through LA, give me a call, and I would love you to talk to my students, and I'm sure I'm speaking for Steve and Stan as well. If you're ever in Dallas, Steve's there, and you don't want to go to Gainesville, so don't even bother.
Yeah, don't come to Gainesville, but I do have one request. In about 10 years, it's going to be interesting to see where your career is. So I would invite you back if we're still doing this show in 10 years.
Okay.
to
Yeah,
sort
I'll
of
hold you to
return
it.
10 years later and reflect upon this interview and talk about what your journey has been. I think that would be really nice full circle.
Yeah.
Just to be safe, let's do it 5 years, because
5 is
the
good.
show would be so slow, it'll be 2 hours long back then. Well, there, the rocking sounds of the Luminoids, soon to be joined by Rachael Blackwell on alto sax, right?
Yeah.
On alto. Yeah, tells us that once again you've spent another morning listening to Light Talk. You can listen to Light Talk on Spotify, TuneIn, Google, iTunes, Live Design Online, and just about any other favorite podcast provider that you use. And why not subscribe to Light Talk? That way you won't miss 1 second of crazy Lumen insanity.
No guarantee is offered regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on this podcast. However,
If you do decide to litigate us, the law firm of Flecht, Flocked, Flare, and Glare and their paralegal snoot will defend us until our retirement funds are depleted.
Light Talk is written and produced by the Lumen Brothers, coming to you from Long Beach, Gainesville, the Lone Star State, and Hampton, Virginia.
And be sure to tune in next week when we discuss even more crazy things in the lighting world.
All of that and a new sponsor.
Light Talk, broadcasting questionable Lumen knowledge and humor around the world.
So we'll see you all next Saturday morning. Stay happy and healthy. Thanks again, Rachel.
Thank you guys so much.
Great interview, Rachel. Good luck.
Thank you.
Toodles.